Warm welcome to everyone joining us today for another talk between the Domestic Violence Center of Chester County and LCH. My name is Daphne and I'm a caseworker here. And with me is Clara from the Domestic Violence Center. Hello, Clara.
Hi, Daphne.
Well, March is Women's History Month, and in recognition of women's role in advancing domestic violence awareness, we wanted to talk a little bit about its history, the start of domestic violence awareness. We know that domestic violence has been around since early mankind, when women and children were considered property with absolutely no rights under the law, when violence was a way of life, and the spouse could physically punish both children and wife without any repercussions. So that whatever happened within the family unit was nobody else's concern. So, Clara, let's fast forward thousands of years. So, when did domestic violence awareness start?
Well, actually, there was a lot of movements happening, but um, when it came to what domestic violence became now as an awareness movement and actually, many laws, it took many decades for to get something in writing. It started with simple states taking on laws, as well as the gathering of women. So after that, they were establishing some laws and state and national, which it brought to a whole perspective as to the awareness of domestic violence. So let's go back to the history. There's a lot of history actually when it comes to domestic violence and the movements. There's a whole list of, if you Google it, or actually we probably can post it in our systems. There's a whole history that takes us to the 1800s all the way to now, as to
Mhm.
what has changed, what achievements have happened, especially the women and around domestic violence and the become the women's rights. So back in the 1815s, when Tennessee and Alabama, actually both of them, is kind of like who actually got it first.
Mhm.
It was a outlaw for male to hit their spouses, and it was not until 1919 when women finally were able to have the right to vote. And then skip over many. There's actually many movements that took place between that, but we don't have the time to
No.
list every single one of them. But I did put most of the important ones and that do affect our communities. In October 1981, it was the Day of Unity, which was observed as a national coalition against domestic violence. But it was until 1987 that became the Domestic Violence Awareness Month in October, and as a national. And also in 1987, it was established the first toll-free hotline, national. And then in 1989, Congress passed the, finally, after it was actually back in 1981, it took Congress until 1989 to pass it as a law, that it was October, the National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Then after that, it was in 1984, the Victim of Crimes Act was established, where people that get charged with or convicted with federal crimes, they give some of the fees and the cost and court fees. They come to finance the Victims Crimes Act. The Family Violence Prevention Act, that one was established in 1984. Unfortunately, it has not been reestablished since 2010.
Mhm.
And the first domestic violence shelter was established in 1976 in New York.
That's
Very close.
amazing. So recent. So
And
recent.
it amazes me that it takes all these years for all this. Now, something important for our state, in 1976, it was a big movement between Pennsylvania and New York, and in New Jersey as well, and Maryland. In 1976, Pennsylvania passed the Protection from Abuse Act, which is an amazing tool for somebody that needs to be protected, and it gives custody, exclusion, and is evicted from the home. Many litigations and process took place in order to get there. Back then it was 12 months. Now it's up to 3 years. In 2016, in Chester County, actually, Representative Becky Corvin, the ADA's office, and our center, the Domestic Violence Center, introduced the bill for strangulation as a crime, and it was finally passed in 2016, December 2016. The coalition who governs Domestic Violence Center of Chester County was established in 1976. Our is the oldest statewide domestic violence center, and believe it or not, and our state has 59 domestic violence centers that are between the counties. Some counties actually share because they're very rural, and they have served over 90,000 victims. And throughout the year. And so also, one thing about the Domestic Violence Center of Chester County is that we also we started out of the YMCA in Chester County at the Women's Resource Center, and then until 1976 it was reorganized and renamed as the Domestic Violence Center of Chester County. We're the only organization in Chester County that has the contract with the Pennsylvania Human Resources Services and PCDAB to provide exclusively to domestic violence victims and their dependent children. Mm-hmm. Now, something that is dearly for me, and I know it's a lot, in 2012 was the actual establish of the No More program that a lot of the domestic violence nationally and locally establish. A no more means no more, no más. No. And it started the Latino movement, and they established the Latin Network for Healthy Families and Communities. It was part of the Casa Esperanza, and Casa Esperanza was actually assigned as the National Center for Latino Survivors. Now, something that we also need to talk about, it was that in 1994, the President Bill Clinton passed the VAWA Act, which is the Violence Against Women Act. Through that, what it does is it gives money and a deeper attention to the issues of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, and stalking. It also gives relief for immigration relief for those who need that service. And also, it was the first time that they established a office of violence against women. Never before there was such thing. So, and there's way more about great things that women have done as to the reason why all of us can enjoy the freedom and equality. There's still a lot to work with. And hopefully this is just the beginning of the many alerts as to why we need to start.
That's right. Not only nationally, but a lot of work to be done also internationally.
And locally too.
Yes, that's right. So why did this start? What was the impetus? What was the,
Well, it all started. Yeah, well, it all started because there needs to be a connection. They needed to be across the nation. There were advocates looking to end domestic violence against women and children. We wanted, well, the women back then, even now, we do not want to have a job. We want to, we want our victims and survivors, and whichever name you want to call them, I call them survivors. We want them not to suffer. Part of our dream is that there will be no domestic violence because there is no need for it. But in reality, there is a need for it.
So, how has domestic violence awareness helped survivors?
Well, as part of the education, during the not just the in the month of October, all through the whole year, every domestic violence center nationwide, locally, state, federal, there's programs for community awareness. It's part of the educate the community about that domestic violence. It's can happen to anyone, and it's to take action to promote the social change. And it's part of the also the campaign for survivors who either have not reached out for help, or they reach out for help and decided not to do anything. So it's part of educating the people around us.
And what kind of services exist today? What resources are there today?
Well, the good thing about it is that there's a lot of resources, both in English and Spanish and other languages, by the way. Our focus today will be in English and Spanish, but there is almost every language available. There's specialty domestic violence organizations that are specialized to serve underserved communities like community of color, South Asian, Latinas. Our organization actually works with every person, no matter what the gender, color of the skin, race, income. But there's a lot of organizations that do this throughout the nation. In Chester County, we have services from we have housing, counseling, education in the community, which is a big deal for us because that's how we bring awareness to everybody. Legal services, which is what my department does. We help victims of abuse and their dependent children with protection from abuse orders. We accompany them to the civil and criminal procedures, as well as hospitals, police stations, immigration relief. We have a wonderful partnership with Hayes of Pennsylvania. They come out and help our clients get immigration relief free of charge. And we also partner with you guys. We always partnering with a lot of organizations. We actually, the Kennett office started out of LCH back in 1994, and then we left, and then we come back with you guys again in 2011. So the partnerships, we look always looking for partnerships because that's how we actually reach out those victims who have no other way but going through the partner agencies.
And we are very, very, very proud of that partnership with the Domestic Violence Center.
So we are.
So we want to thank everyone for joining us today. Um, we've come a long way, but there's still so much work to do. Um, we hope that this has been helpful, informative, and again, remember, just like Clara said, that we here at LCH and the Domestic Violence Center are here to assist you in any way that we can. So thank
Definitely.
you, everyone.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for
And hopefully you guys get to read in our website all the history that there is out there about women and women's rights.
Thank you.